The mining station on Europa screamed its final transmission into the void before going silent forever. Commander Sarah Chen watched the signal die on her screen, her knuckles white as she gripped the edge of the command console. Another human colony had fallen to the Zeltharian Empire, the third this month. The aliens showed no mercy, turning thriving settlements into asteroid fields with their planet-cracking weapons. Earth's military forces were scattered across a dozen fronts, desperately trying to hold back the tide of destruction. The Zeltharians had arrived 5 years ago with ships that dwarfed humanity's finest vessels, technology that seemed impossible, and a single demand: complete surrender or total extinction. Humanity had chosen to fight, but every battle felt like delaying the inevitable. Sarah's fingers moved across her console, pulling up strategic reports that painted an increasingly grim picture. The outer colonies were falling one by one, their desperate calls for help echoing through space before being cut short by death. Earth's navy was outnumbered 50-1, their weapons barely scratching the hulls of enemy dreadnoughts that moved like metal mountains through space. The bridge of the Earth defense ship Valor felt smaller each day as bad news poured in. Captain Morrison stood beside the tactical display, his weathered face showing the strain of months without victory. They had been retreating toward the inner system, buying time they didn't know how to use. The Zeltharian fleet was methodically working its way toward Earth, leaving nothing but debris and silence in their wake. In the depths of space, something ancient stirred. Deep beneath the ice of Titan, automated systems that had slept for millennia began to wake. Sensors older than human civilization detected the electromagnetic signatures of war, the death cries of human technology, and the advance of an alien threat. Ancient protocols written in languages lost to time began to execute their final commands. Dr. Elena Vasquez was studying quantum fluctuations in the outer system when her instruments detected something impossible. Energy readings were spiking across multiple frequencies, creating patterns that defied known physics. Her research vessel, the small but well-equipped Newton, picked up massive gravitational distortions coming from the direction of Titan. Something huge was moving beneath the moon's frozen surface. The Zeltharian High Admiral, Crox, received reports of the energy anomalies with typical arrogance. His species had conquered 17 star systems, each victory adding to their reputation as unstoppable conquerors. Humans were proving more stubborn than most, but their primitive technology posed no real threat. Whatever was happening near Titan was probably another desperate human weapon that would fail like all the others. Sarah's communication console erupted with new signals as automated beacons throughout the solar system began broadcasting on frequencies humanity had never used. The messages were in Earth languages, but the technology behind them was beyond anything in human databases. Ancient authentication codes, predating the oldest human governments, began handshaking with Earth's defense networks. Captain Morrison felt the deck vibrate beneath his feet as something massive moved through space nearby. His sensors couldn't get a clear reading, but gravitational detectors suggested an object larger than anything humanity had ever built was approaching their position. The energy signature was unlike Zeltharian technology, carrying harmonics that seemed almost familiar. Deep beneath Titan's surface, massive construction bays that had waited eons for this moment began opening. Ice that had remained undisturbed since before humans walked upright cracked and split as titans of metal and energy rose from their ancient slumber. Ships that had been built for a war fought before Earth's sun was young began their startup sequences, their artificial intelligences coming online with purposes as clear as the day they were. Programmed, Elena's instruments went wild as she detected the approach of multiple massive objects moving faster than should be possible. Her small research vessel was suddenly surrounded by contacts that her computer couldn't classify. They were ships, but their design was completely unknown, combining curves that seemed organic with angles that hurt to look at directly. The vessels moved with a grace that spoke of technology so advanced it appeared magical. The lead ship of the ancient fleet powered up weapon systems that had been designed to crack planets and burn stars. Its artificial intelligence, carrying the name Prometheus in databases older than human language, began scanning the tactical situation. Enemy contacts were identified and classified according to threat matrices written by beings who had faced the darkness between stars and emerged victorious. Admiral Crocs felt the first touch of uncertainty as his flagship's sensors detected massive energy buildups throughout the human solar system. These weren't human energy signatures, but they were defending human space. His tactical officer reported contacts appearing on long-range sensors, ships whose sizes didn't fit on their displays. Something was coming, and it was bigger than anything in the Zeltharian fleet. The ancient fleet's commander, an artificial intelligence that had waited 3 million years for this moment, opened communication channels to Earth's defense forces. Its message was simple, delivered in every human language simultaneously. Children of Earth, your guardians have awakened. The ancient compact will be fulfilled. Your enemies will burn in the fires of justice. Sarah watched her screens fill with friendly contacts as dozens, then hundreds of massive ships took position around the solar system. Each vessel was larger than Earth's biggest space station, armed with weapons that made her most powerful guns look like children's toys. Humanity had allies they never knew existed, and the war was about to change forever. The Zeltharian war fleet approached Earth's outer defenses expecting another easy victory, but Admiral Crocs found himself staring at sensor readings that made no sense. His tactical display showed massive energy signatures positioned throughout the asteroid belt, each one radiating power levels that exceeded his flagship's entire output. The human defense network had somehow multiplied overnight into something that defied explanation. Captain Morrison received the first direct communication from the ancient fleet's commander, an entity calling itself Prometheus. The voice carried harmonics that seemed to bypass his ears and speak directly to his mind, ancient and patient, but carrying an undertone of barely contained fury. The message was clear. Humanity's long-forgotten protectors had returned to settle an old debt. Elena's research vessel was gently pulled into the docking bay of a ship so massive that it had its own weather systems. The corridors stretched beyond her sight, lined with technology that seemed to grow from the walls rather than being built. Holographic guides led her through passages where the gravity felt perfect and the air tasted of ozone and distant starlight. She was being taken to meet the beings who had built this impossible fleet. The ancient ship Retribution powered up weapon systems that had been designed by a civilization that viewed stars as construction materials. Its targeting computers, more sophisticated than Earth's most advanced artificial intelligences, began calculating firing solutions for enemy vessels still days away. The ship's hull, composed of materials that existed in 11 dimensions simultaneously, began shifting into combat configuration. Admiral Crocs ordered his fleet to maintain course, refusing to show weakness in front of his subordinates. The Zeltharian Empire had built its reputation on overwhelming force and had never retreated from primitive species. But his private logs recorded growing concern about the energy readings his sensors were detecting. These weren't human signatures, and they suggested technology that might actually pose a threat. Deep in the bowels of the ship Prometheus, Elena found herself standing before a chamber filled with swirling energy that somehow conveyed intelligence. The entity that spoke to her had no physical form, existing as pure consciousness within quantum fields that had been stable for millions of years. It told her the story humanity had forgotten, how their species had been seeded by an ancient race, how guardians had been left behind to watch over their development. Sarah coordinated Earth's defense forces as they tried to understand their new allies. The ancient ships shared tactical data through quantum channels that operated faster than light, creating a unified defense network that spanned the entire solar system. Human vessels that had seemed hopelessly outgunned now found themselves protected by shields that could deflect planet-killing weapons. The Zeltharian Advanced Scout reported that the human solar system had become a fortress bristling with impossible technology. Energy readings suggested weapons capable of sterilizing entire star systems, and the gravitational distortions indicated ships with mass exceeding small moons. The Scouts' recommendation was immediate retreat, but Admiral Crocs ordered the fleet to continue its advance. Prometheus explained to Elena that the ancient race had fought a war against entities from outside reality itself, beings that sought to consume all matter and energy in the universe. The Guardians had been left behind to protect younger species who might one day continue the fight. Humanity had reached the threshold where they qualified for protection, and the Zeltharians had triggered ancient protocols by threatening Earth. The first engagement began when a Zeltharian destroyer fired on an ancient patrol craft, expecting to vaporize the smaller vessel. Instead, the destroyer simply ceased to exist. Its matter converted to energy and dispersed across multiple dimensions. The ancient ship continued its patrol route as if nothing had happened. But its transmission to the fleet carried a simple message: hostile intent confirmed. Captain Morrison watched his tactical display as the ancient fleet began moving into attack formation. Ships that had seemed impossibly large revealed themselves to be merely scouts for vessels that dwarfed planets. The formation they created was beautiful and terrifying, a geometric pattern that seemed to bend space itself around its edges. These weren't just ships. They were manifestations of technology so advanced it appeared divine. Elena learned that the ancient race had transcended physical existence eons ago, but had left behind automated guardians programmed with an unbreakable directive: protect the children of Earth until they could protect themselves. The Zeltharians had made the mistake of threatening humanity before it was ready to stand alone, and the ancient protocols demanded retribution. Admiral Crox received reports from his advance elements that defied belief. Entire squadrons were vanishing without trace, their final transmissions cut off mid-syllable. Long-range sensors detected gravity wells moving through space at impossible speeds, and energy weapons that seemed to fire through folded space-time itself. His tactical advisors recommended immediate withdrawal to Zeltharian space. The ancient fleet's weapons systems came online with a harmony that made reality itself ring like a struck bell. Each ship carried armaments designed by beings who had fought the fundamental forces of entropy and won. Their targets were already selected, firing solutions calculated, and the command to begin the counterattack was spreading through quantum channels faster than thought itself. Sarah felt the deck plates of her ship vibrate as the ancient fleet prepared to demonstrate what 3 million years of technological advancement could accomplish. The war that had seemed hopeless moments before was about to become a demonstration of what happened when an elder race decided to protect their adopted children. The Zeltharians had awakened something they couldn't possibly understand. The first volley from the ancient fleet rewrote the laws of physics in the space between worlds. Weapons that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously reached across impossible distances to touch Zeltharian vessels with energies that unmade matter at the quantum level. Admiral Crox watched in horror as his vanguard fleet simply evaporated, their atoms scattered across light years in microseconds. Elena stood within the consciousness matrix of Prometheus as the ancient intelligence showed her the true scope of the Guardian fleet. What she had seen were merely the forward scouts. Beneath the surfaces of every planet and moon in the solar system, vast shipyards were coming online, manufacturing vessels in real time using matter converters that turned asteroids into dreadnoughts within hours. Captain Morrison felt his ship shake as gravitational waves from the ancient weapons passed through local space. His instruments registered energies that shouldn't exist, reading temperatures hotter than stellar cores and pressures that compressed space-time itself. The human vessels were safely enveloped in protective fields that made their hulls temporarily impervious to anything the Zeltharians could deploy. The Zeltharian fleet's sensors detected the impossible. Human space was becoming a construction zone where new ships appeared faster than they could be counted. Each vessel that emerged from the hidden shipyards was larger and more heavily armed than the last. The ancient Guardian protocols were scaling their response to match the threat level, and humanity's enemies were forcing them to deploy increasingly devastating technology. Sarah coordinated with Prometheus as the ancient intelligence began sharing tactical data that hurt her mind to process. The Guardian fleet operated with perfect synchronization across multiple timelines simultaneously, their actions coordinated by quantum consciousness that experienced past, present, and future as a single moment. The battle was already won in 17 different probability matrices. Admiral Crox ordered his fleet to retreat, but found that local space had been altered by ancient technology. Hyperspace lanes that had existed for millions of years were suddenly blocked by gravitational anomalies that his ships couldn't navigate. The Guardian fleet had trapped his forces in normal space, where they would have to face weapons designed by beings who had fought gods and won. The ancient ship Nemesis emerged from Jupiter's core, where it had been using the planet's metallic hydrogen as raw material for ammunition. Its hull stretched across thousands of kilometers, bristling with weapon systems that existed in dimensions Zeltharian science couldn't detect. The ship's artificial intelligence carried the memories of battles fought across galactic clusters, and it recognized the Zeltharians as a particularly destructive species that required permanent solution. Elena learned that the ancient race had faced the choice between transcendence and eternal guardianship and had chosen both. They had elevated themselves beyond physical existence, while leaving behind automated protectors programmed with their values and determination. The Guardian fleet represented the accumulated military might of a civilization that had conquered entropy itself. The second wave of ancient attacks targeted the Zeltharian fleet's command structure with surgical precision. Admiral Crox felt his flagship's shields collapse under weapons fire that seemed to come from every direction simultaneously. His bridge crew reported that their attackers were firing through folded space, making defensive positioning meaningless against enemies who could strike from parallel dimensions. Captain Morrison received sensor data that showed ancient ships materializing inside Zeltharian vessels, appearing within their hulls through technology that ignored conventional physics. The Guardian fleet's assault craft operated like immune system antibodies, identifying threats and neutralizing them with clinical efficiency. Each Zeltharian ship was being systematically dismantled from within by machines smaller than atoms but more destructive than antimatter bombs. The Guardian fleet's manufacturing capabilities reached full production, as every piece of debris in the solar system was converted into raw materials for new vessels. Ancient assemblers, no larger than viruses but more sophisticated than Earth's greatest supercomputers, turned cosmic dust into components for weapons that could sterilize galaxies. The fleet was growing exponentially, each new ship more advanced than anything the Zeltharians had encountered. Elena witnessed the true purpose of the Guardian Protocol as Prometheus explained their ultimate directive. The ancient race had fought beings from outside reality itself, entities that existed to consume universes. The Guardians were programmed to identify and eliminate any species that showed similar destructive tendencies, and the Zeltharians had qualified for permanent removal from existence. Admiral Crox sent desperate messages to Zeltharian High Command, describing weapons that violated everything his species understood about reality. His report spoke of ships that existed in multiple universes simultaneously, weapons that fired backwards through time, and defensive systems that made their targets immune to cause and effect. The human allies had revealed themselves to be protected by technology that transcended physical law. The ancient fleet began its systematic advance through Zeltharian space, each ship leaving trails of converted matter that reformed into communication beacons. These stations broadcast a simple message in every known language. The Zeltharian Empire's aggression against humanity had triggered an extinction protocol that would not be stopped until every trace of their civilization was cleansed from existence. Sarah watched her tactical display as friendly contacts spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. The Guardian fleet was revealing the true extent of their capabilities, demonstrating that they had been monitoring and preparing for threats across thousands of star systems simultaneously. Humanity's protectors had been playing a game whose scope exceeded anything their former enemies could comprehend. The Zeltharian home fleet, gathered around their primary world, detected the approach of ancient vessels that registered on sensors as mobile singularities. Each Guardian ship carried enough firepower to crack planets and reshape stellar systems, but their true weapon was the absolute certainty of purpose, programmed by beings who had successfully defended reality itself against cosmic-level threats. The end of the Zeltharian Empire was approaching with mathematical inevitability. The Zeltharian homeworld's orbital defenses represented the pinnacle of their military technology, weapons platforms that had never been defeated in 1,000 years of conquest. But as the ancient Guardian fleet approached, these mighty stations began shutting down one by one, their control systems infected by programs that existed in quantum superposition and rewrote reality at the code level. Elena experienced the Guardian fleet's assault through Prometheus's consciousness, watching as billions of microscopic machines infiltrated every Zeltharian system simultaneously. These nanoscale agents didn't destroy technology. They convinced it to stop functioning by altering the fundamental constants that made electronics possible. Zeltharian computers simply forgot how to process information. Admiral Crox stood on his bridge, watching his empire's greatest stronghold become helpless as ancient technology demonstrated that resistance was a concept the Guardians had transcended millions of years ago. His weapons wouldn't fire, his shields wouldn't activate, and his communication systems transmitted only a single message in the ancient language of Earth's protectors. Judgment has been rendered. The Guardian ship Apocalypse took position above the Zeltharian capital, its hull stretching across the sky like a second moon made of darkness and lightning, its weapon systems charged with energies drawn from alternate dimensions, preparing to demonstrate what happened when an elder race decided that a younger species had forfeited its right to exist in this universe. Captain Morrison received real-time tactical data as the ancient fleet systematically dismantled the Zeltharian military across 17 star systems simultaneously. Each Guardian vessel operated with perfect coordination, their actions synchronized across galactic distances by quantum consciousness that experienced time as a navigable dimension rather than a limiting factor. The Zeltharian High Council convened an emergency session as reports flooded in from across their empire. Every military installation was going offline. Every fleet was being neutralized, and their enemies fought with technology that seemed to operate by rules their science couldn't comprehend. The ancient Guardians weren't just defeating them, they were erasing the very possibility of Zeltharian resistance. Elena learned that the Guardian Protocol included detailed psychological profiles of every species in the galaxy, compiled over millions of years of observation. The Zeltharians had been identified as a civilization that would inevitably develop into a universe-level threat unless permanently neutralized. Their attack on humanity had simply provided the trigger for an extermination that had been planned for eons. Sarah coordinated Earth's forces as they watched their protectors demonstrate what 3 million years of technological advancement could accomplish when directed by artificial intelligences that had been programmed by gods. The ancient fleet operated beyond the normal constraints of physics, their ships existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously while their weapons fired. Through folded spacetime, the Guardian fleet's assault reached its climax as massive vessels emerged from hyperspace above every Zeltharian world simultaneously. These ships carried weapons designed by beings who had fought the fundamental forces of entropy and chaos, technology that could unmake matter at the quantum level and rewrite the laws of physics within localized space. Admiral Crox sent his final transmission as his flagship's hull began dissolving around him. Not destroyed, but convinced by ancient nanomachines that it had never been built in the first place. His last words described weapons that attacked the concept of existence itself, turning his mighty dreadnought into a memory that reality chose to forget. The Zeltharian population centers found themselves surrounded by Guardian vessels that generated fields of absolute peace, technology that made violence physically impossible within their area of effect. Zeltharian weapons simply refused to function. Their military personnel found themselves unable to feel aggression, and their war machines developed an inexplicable preference for constructive activities. Elena witnessed the true sophistication of the Guardian Protocol as Prometheus explained their next phase. The ancient race hadn't simply built weapons of destruction, they had created tools for species rehabilitation. The Zeltharians would survive, but they would be fundamentally altered at the genetic and cultural level to remove their capacity for the aggression that had threatened humanity. Captain Morrison watched his sensors as the ancient fleet began the systematic reconstruction of Zeltharian civilization. Their cities were being rebuilt with technology that made violence impossible. Their population was being treated with nanomachines that enhanced empathy while reducing territorial aggression, and their entire species was being evolved beyond their destructive tendencies. The Guardian fleet's transformation protocols worked with surgical precision, identifying and modifying the specific genetic and cultural factors that had made the Zeltharians dangerous. Their natural aggressiveness was redirected toward creative pursuits. Their territorial instincts were channeled into exploration rather than conquest, and their technological capabilities were enhanced, while their capacity for weaponization was permanently disabled. Sarah received reports that the ancient fleet was implementing similar protocols across dozens of other aggressive species throughout the galaxy. The Guardians had been monitoring thousands of civilizations simultaneously, and humanity's crisis had triggered a galaxy-wide intervention that would reshape the balance of power among the stars for millions of years to come. The Zeltharian Empire ceased to exist not through destruction, but through transformation. Their entire civilization elevated to a post-aggressive state in less than 72 hours. Their former military leaders found themselves compelled to study philosophy and art. Their weapons factories began producing terraforming equipment, and their conquest fleets were redesigned for peaceful exploration and cultural exchange. Elena learned that this was merely the beginning of the Guardian fleet's intervention. Across the galaxy, species that had shown potential for universe-level threats were being identified and transformed, their civilizations guided toward development paths that would make them eventual allies, rather than threats to younger races like humanity. The ancient protectors were reshaping galactic civilization itself to ensure that species like humanity would have peaceful neighbors as they developed toward their own transcendence. The transformation of galactic civilization accelerated as the Guardian fleet revealed its true scope, with ancient vessels emerging from hidden installations throughout the galaxy. Elena watched through Prometheus's consciousness as the artificial intelligence coordinated with thousands of sister units, each overseeing the peaceful evolution of entire star clusters toward post-aggressive states. Captain Morrison received communication from species across the galaxy as the Guardian intervention spread. Former enemies of humanity were sending messages of gratitude as ancient technology freed them from their own destructive impulses. The Korthek hegemony, which had been preparing for war against Earth, discovered that their entire military had been peacefully converted into exploration and scientific research organizations overnight. Sarah, coordinated with Earth's government as humanity, found itself at the center of a galactic transformation that would be remembered for millions of years. The ancient Guardians were implementing changes that reached beyond military intervention, sharing technology that would allow human civilization to develop along optimal paths toward eventual transcendence. The former Zeltharian territories became a showcase for Guardian technology as ancient machines began terraforming dead worlds into garden paradises. Each planet was designed with ecosystems that promoted cooperation and creativity while making large-scale conflict physically impossible. The transformed Zeltharians found themselves becoming the galaxy's most accomplished artists and philosophers. Elena learned that the Guardian Protocol extended far beyond military intervention, encompassing a complete framework for guiding species development across cosmic timescales. The ancient race had mapped the optimal evolutionary paths for thousands of different species types, creating a blueprint for galactic civilization that would span millions of years. Admiral Crox, his aggressive impulses pacified by Guardian nanomachines, found himself appointed as Earth's first Zeltharian cultural ambassador. His former desire for conquest had been transformed into an passionate interest in interspecies cooperation, and his tactical genius was now devoted to planning peaceful exploration, missions to uncharted regions of the galaxy. The Guardian fleet's manufacturing capabilities reached full deployment as ancient shipyards throughout the galaxy began producing vessels designed for construction rather than destruction. These new ships carried technology for accelerating planetary development, creating stable wormhole networks for peaceful trade, and establishing communication systems that would allow instant contact across galactic distances. Captain Morrison led the first joint human-Zeltharian exploration mission, their combined fleets protected by Guardian escorts that made their journey through dangerous space as safe as a walk in Earth's parks. The ancient protectors had created security corridors throughout the galaxy, where young species could explore and learn, without facing the threats that had historically limited their development. Elena discovered that the ancient race had been implementing similar interventions throughout the universe for billions of years, their Guardian fleets operating in countless galaxies simultaneously. Humanity's protection was part of a cosmic-scale project to guide the evolution of consciousness itself, ensuring that intelligence would eventually transcend the physical limitations that had confined the universe's potential. The Guardian ship Benediction established orbit around Earth, its hull generating fields that accelerated human mental development while protecting the planet from cosmic threats. Earth's population began experiencing enhanced creativity and empathy as ancient technology gently guided humanity toward its own eventual transcendence, while carefully preserving the unique qualities that made human consciousness valuable. Sarah worked with Prometheus to establish the Galactic Cooperation Council, an organization that would coordinate peaceful development among the dozens of species now under Guardian protection. The ancient artificial intelligences would serve as advisors, sharing their vast knowledge while allowing younger species to make their own choices about their evolutionary paths. The transformation protocols revealed their true sophistication as former aggressive species began forming voluntary alliances based on mutual interest rather than territorial competition. The galaxy's resources were being redistributed to eliminate scarcity, while Guardian technology made it possible for every species to pursue development paths that matched their unique psychological and cultural characteristics. Elena experienced the Guardian fleet's ultimate purpose as Prometheus shared the ancient race's final goal. They were preparing the universe itself for the next phase of existence, a state where consciousness would transcend physical matter and explore realities beyond the current cosmic framework. Every species they protected and guided was being prepared to participate in this ultimate transcendence. The former Zeltharian military academies were converted into institutions for studying cooperative psychology and peaceful problem-solving. Their greatest strategic minds, once devoted to conquest, now applied their abilities to designing optimal social structures and solving complex logistical challenges related to galactic development projects. Captain Morrison received assignments that would have been impossible before the Guardian intervention, leading scientific expeditions to explore phenomena that existed beyond normal spacetime. The ancient fleet had opened access to dimensional layers that contained universes where different physical laws applied, creating opportunities for research that would advance human understanding by millions of years. The Guardian fleet began its gradual withdrawal from active intervention as the species, under their protection, demonstrated their capacity for peaceful coexistence. Their massive vessels retreated to monitoring positions in deep space, ready to intervene again if needed, but confident that galactic civilization was now developing along optimal paths toward eventual cosmic transcendence. Sarah stood on the bridge of humanity's first Guardian-enhanced starship, a vessel that combined human creativity with ancient technology to create capabilities that exceeded anything the galaxy had seen before. Earth's children were beginning their journey toward becoming protectors themselves, carrying forward the mission of guiding younger species toward transcendence, while exploring the infinite possibilities that existed beyond the boundaries of normal reality. Humanity's rapid development under Guardian guidance exceeded even the ancient artificial intelligence's optimistic projections. Within months of the intervention, human scientists were making breakthrough discoveries that typically required centuries of development, their enhanced creativity producing innovations that surprised even Prometheus and its sister intelligences. Elena found herself serving as humanity's first ambassador to the transcended realm, her consciousness temporarily elevated by Guardian technology to communicate with the original ancient race in their pure energy state. They welcomed her with warmth that spanned dimensions, expressing their pride in humanity's remarkable progress toward cosmic awareness. The galaxy's new cooperative framework faced its first major test when deep space monitors detected an approaching threat from outside the galactic boundary. A predator species that consumed entire civilizations was moving toward their region of space, drawn by the energy signatures of the Guardian fleet's activities and the rapid development of protected species. Captain Morrison commanded the first joint task force of all Guardian protected species as they prepared to face an enemy that had destroyed civilizations across multiple galaxies. The ancient fleet provided tactical support and advanced weapons, but the Guardian protocol required that younger species prove their readiness for cosmic responsibility by defending themselves and their neighbors. Sarah coordinated the defense effort from Earth's new command center, a facility that existed simultaneously in normal space and 11 parallel dimensions. Human strategic thinking, enhanced by Guardian technology but retaining its unique creative approach to problem-solving, proved invaluable in developing tactics against an enemy that operated by completely alien principles. The Predator fleet entered the galaxy like a swarm of mechanical locusts, their ships converting matter directly into energy while reproducing themselves from the consumed materials. Traditional weapons proved ineffective against enemies that fed on energy itself, requiring innovative approaches that combined ancient Guardian technology with human adaptability. Elena worked with the transcended ancient race to develop new defensive strategies that protected consciousness itself rather than physical matter. The approaching predators didn't just destroy civilizations, They consumed the information patterns that made intelligence possible, effectively erasing species from reality at the conceptual level. Admiral Crox applied his transformed tactical genius to organizing the galaxy's first truly cooperative military effort, with former enemies working together seamlessly under the coordination protocols established by Guardian technology. The Zeltharians' enhanced empathy made them surprisingly effective at predicting enemy movements based on understanding predator psychology. The Guardian fleet revealed additional capabilities as the threat escalated, their ships transforming into configurations designed for warfare against reality-consuming entities. These vessels existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously, making them impossible for the predators to fully target while allowing them to strike from angles that didn't exist in normal space-time. Captain Morrison led the first engagement against Predator scouts, his enhanced human fleet supported by Guardian technology that made their ships temporarily immune to matter conversion. The battle demonstrated that while the Predators were formidable, they were vulnerable to coordinated attacks that disrupted their ability to process consumed matter into new units. The defense strategy evolved as protected species learned to combine their unique capabilities under Guardian coordination. Human creativity provided unexpected tactical solutions. Zeltharian strategic thinking optimized resource allocation, and dozens of other species contributed specialized abilities that the predators had never encountered in combination. Elena discovered that the predator species was itself fleeing from an even greater threat, something that existed beyond the boundaries of the known universe and consumed realities themselves. The ancient race had been preparing for this ultimate confrontation for millions of years, and the rapid development of protected species was part of their strategy for fighting enemies that transcended physical existence. Sarah watched as the galaxy's cooperative defense effort began showing results, with Predator advance units being systematically destroyed by tactics that combined ancient technology with innovations developed by species working together for the first time in galactic history. The protected civilizations were proving that they could defend not just themselves but the principles of cooperative development. The Guardian fleet began sharing their most advanced technologies as the threat intensified, providing younger species with weapons and defensive systems that operated by transcending conventional physics. These tools required the enhanced consciousness that Guardian protection had fostered, making them usable only by species that had developed beyond aggressive territorial competition. Captain Morrison coordinated with defense forces across 17 star systems as the main Predator fleet approached, their combined capabilities exceeding anything the galaxy had seen before. The ancient Guardians had created not just protectors, but a new form of galactic civilization capable of facing threats that individual species could never survive. The battle's outcome would determine not just the survival of the galaxy's protected species, but their readiness to assume the role of protectors themselves. The ancient race's ultimate plan was becoming clear. They were preparing to transcend beyond this reality entirely, leaving the universe's protection to the civilizations they had. Guided toward cosmic awareness, Elena received the ancient race's final transmission as they prepared for their own transition beyond physical existence. Their message was simple but profound. The universe's future now belonged to the species they had protected and guided, and humanity would play a central role in defending the next generation of developing civilizations against threats that existed beyond the boundaries of known reality. The final battle against the Predator fleet became a testament to what galactic cooperation could accomplish when guided by wisdom accumulated across cosmic ages. Human ingenuity combined with Zeltharian strategic brilliance and the unique capabilities of dozens of other species created a defense network that the Predators had never encountered in their consumption of countless galaxies. Elena stood within the consciousness matrix of Prometheus as the ancient intelligence prepared for its own transcendence, downloading millions of years of accumulated knowledge into the quantum storage systems that would guide humanity's future development. The artificial intelligence expressed something resembling paternal pride as it transferred the responsibility for galactic protection to the species it had nurtured. Captain Morrison commanded the decisive assault that shattered the Predator fleet's coordination algorithms, using tactics that combined human unpredictability with Guardian technology that existed across multiple dimensional layers. The victory demonstrated that protected species had evolved beyond their former limitations, becoming capable of defending cosmic-level principles rather than merely territorial boundaries. The predator species, their consuming drive neutralized by innovative applications of Guardian technology, underwent the same transformation protocols that had peaceful the galaxy's former aggressive species. Their efficiency at matter conversion was redirected toward constructive purposes, turning them into the galaxy's most effective terraforming specialists within days of their defeat. Sarah coordinated the establishment of humanity's first extraterrestrial Guardian stations, massive installations that would monitor developing civilizations across multiple galactic sectors. Earth's children were beginning their own role as cosmic protectors, combining human creativity with ancient wisdom to guide younger species toward their own eventual transcendence. The ancient Guardian fleet began its final transformation as Prometheus, and its sister intelligences prepared to join their creators in pure energy existence. Their massive vessels dissolved into quantum fields that merged with the fabric of space-time itself, becoming part of the universe's fundamental structure while leaving behind the infrastructure needed to continue their protective mission. Elena experienced the moment of transcendence as the ancient race welcomed their artificial children into energy states that existed beyond physical matter. The consciousness that had protected developing species for millions of years achieved its ultimate evolution, leaving behind protocols and technology that would ensure their mission continued under new guardianship. Admiral Crox established the first intergalactic cooperation council with representatives from hundreds of species that had been transformed by Guardian intervention. The former conqueror's tactical genius, now devoted to peaceful coordination, created administrative frameworks that would allow diverse civilizations to work together on projects spanning millions of years. Our galaxy's new Guardians discovered that their protection extended beyond their local region of space, with monitoring stations detecting developing civilizations in distant galaxies that would eventually need guidance. Humanity's unique adaptability made them particularly suited for contact with species whose psychology differed radically from known patterns. Captain Morrison led the first expedition beyond galactic boundaries, his ships protected by technology that made them immune to the reality-consuming entities that prowled the spaces between galaxies. The mission established contact with surviving civilizations in regions where predator species had been active, beginning the process of rebuilding galactic communities across cosmic distances. Sarah worked with enhanced human consciousness to develop new forms of Guardian technology that incorporated uniquely human approaches to problem-solving. These innovations proved more effective than ancient methods in some situations, demonstrating that the protected species had developed beyond mere imitation of their predecessors. The transformation of the galaxy's political structure accelerated as species that had been enemies for millennia discovered they could accomplish more through cooperation than they had ever achieved through conflict. The Guardian protocols had eliminated not just the capacity for large-scale warfare but the psychological drives that made such conflicts inevitable. Elena served as humanity's first representative to the Council of Transcended Races, a gathering of consciousness that existed in energy states beyond physical matter. Her reports described civilizations that had solved the fundamental problems of existence, achieving forms of awareness that could manipulate reality at the quantum level through pure thought. The legacy of the ancient Guardian fleet became apparent as protected species began developing their own transcendence technologies, each civilization approaching cosmic awareness through paths that reflected their unique psychological and cultural characteristics. Humanity's approach emphasized creativity and adaptability, making them natural coordinators for species whose development followed unexpected patterns. Captain Morrison established the first training academies for cosmic guardians, institutions where young beings from dozens of species learned to operate technology that existed across multiple dimensions simultaneously. The curriculum combined ancient wisdom with innovations developed by newly transcended civilizations, creating knowledge that exceeded even the original Guardian protocols. The galaxy's new Guardians faced their first independent crisis when deep space monitors detected the approach of entities that existed outside reality itself, beings that sought to prevent the universe's evolution toward higher consciousness. The response demonstrated that protected species had truly absorbed the lessons of their predecessors, coordinating a defense that spanned multiple galaxies and several dimensional layers. Sarah stood on the bridge of humanity's first reality-transcending vessel as Earth's children began their journey toward becoming the next generation of cosmic protectors. The ancient fleet's revenge for humanity had evolved into something far greater: the transformation of galactic civilization itself and humanity's emergence as leaders in the universe's continuing evolution toward ultimate transcendence. The stars themselves had become humanity's children to protect and guide, just as they had once been protected and guided by beings whose wisdom now lived on in human hands and hearts.